The CEO fired her quiet, single dad driver. Seconds later, his Navy SEAL past saved her life. What happens when a powerful CEO makes a decision about someone she believes she understands? Could one unexpected moment change the way people see a person forever? Hello, everyone. We hope you're having a wonderful day filled with positive energy and good luck. Please give us about 5 seconds to share a small kindness with us by subscribing to the channel and turning on notifications. Thank you for being here and supporting our stories. Before we begin, tell us where in the world you are watching from and what time it is right now. We truly appreciate you joining us. Now, let us begin the story. We are ready to discover a journey of courage and hope together. You are only my driver, Ethan. Do not forget your place. The words were spoken calmly, but they carried the weight of a decision that would soon change everything. Victoria Hayes, the powerful CEO of one of America's fastest-growing companies, believed she was making a simple business choice. Ethan Walker was quiet, dependable, and always professional, but to her, he was only the man who drove her between meetings. She never looked beyond the suit he wore behind the wheel, the polite smile he gave every morning, or the simple life he lived as a single father. For years, Ethan arrived before sunrise, prepared every route, and made sure Victoria's demanding schedule ran smoothly. He never complained. He never asked for attention. He simply did his job with quiet dignity. What Victoria did not know was that the man she overlooked had spent years living by a completely different code. Before becoming a driver, Ethan had served his country in ways very few people knew about. But after leaving that chapter behind, he chose a peaceful life focused on raising his daughter, Lily. He did not want recognition. He did not want people to know about his past. He only wanted to be a good father and provide a stable home for his child. To Victoria, however, his silence looked like weakness. She valued confidence, ambition, and appearances. She believed the people closest to success should always look powerful. Ethan never tried to impress her, and that made her misunderstand him even more. One afternoon, after a stressful business meeting, Victoria made her decision. "I need someone with a different image," she said. "Someone who represents where this company is going." Ethan stood quietly and listened. There was no anger in his expression, no argument, no attempt to defend himself. "I understand," he replied. Those 3 words surprised her. She expected resistance. She expected him to ask for another chance. Instead, Ethan simply thanked her for the opportunity and walked away with the same calm respect he had shown every day. Outside the building, Ethan paused for a moment and looked at the city lights around him. Losing the job was not easy, but he reminded himself that his greatest responsibility was waiting at home. His daughter needed a father who was present, not a man chasing approval from people who did not understand him. Meanwhile, Victoria moved forward, convinced she had made the right choice. She hired a replacement and returned her attention to growing the company. She believed the past belonged behind her. She believed Ethan Walker was just another employee who had reached the end of his usefulness. But she did not know the truth about the quiet man who had been sitting in her car every day. She did not know the discipline hidden behind his patience. She did not know the experience behind his silence. And she certainly did not know that the person she had just removed from her life would soon become the one person standing between her and a moment she could never forget. After leaving Victoria Hayes' company, Ethan Walker returned to the life he had carefully built away from attention. Every morning, he prepared breakfast for his daughter Lily, helped her get ready for school, and enjoyed the simple moments he once missed while working long hours. To the outside world, Ethan was just a quiet single father trying to create a stable future. But there was much more behind the calm expression everyone saw. Ethan had learned long ago that true strength did not come from being noticed. It came from responsibility, discipline, and the choices a person made when nobody was watching. Years earlier, Ethan had served as a Navy SEAL, a chapter of his life he rarely discussed. He carried memories of teamwork, dedication, and service, but he never used that experience to make himself seem important. After leaving the military, he chose a different mission, being the best father he could be for Lily. He wanted her to grow up knowing that kindness mattered more than recognition. Meanwhile, Victoria continued leading her company with confidence. She believed the decision to replace Ethan was necessary. Her new driver arrived with an impressive background and a polished appearance that matched the image she wanted. Yet something felt different. The small details Ethan handled without being asked began creating challenges. The new driver followed instructions, but he did not understand Victoria's habits, her schedule, or the little things that made her demanding days easier. Victoria slowly realized that Ethan's value had never been about driving. It had been about awareness. He noticed things before they became problems. He understood situations before others explained them. But Victoria had only seen the role he performed, not the person behind it. One evening, while organizing old employee records, Victoria came across information she had never reviewed carefully. Ethan Walker's background showed years of service, awards, and experiences that surprised her. She stared at the screen, trying to understand how someone with such a remarkable history had ended up quietly working as a personal driver. A former colleague who knew Ethan's past once described him differently. He was never the person looking for attention, the colleague explained. He was the person everyone trusted when things became difficult. Those words stayed with Victoria. For the first time, she wondered if she had judged Ethan too quickly. She had looked at his position and assumed she understood his value. She had mistaken humility for a lack of ambition. But Ethan had never been without purpose. He had simply chosen a different kind of success. At home, Ethan helped Lily with her homework and listened to her talk about her day. She had no idea about the life her father had lived before becoming a driver. To her, he was simply Dad, the person who packed her lunches, encouraged her dreams, and always showed up when she needed him. Ethan smiled as she shared stories from school, grateful for the peaceful life he had chosen. He did not know Victoria was beginning to see him differently. He did not know that the CEO, who once dismissed him, was slowly discovering the truth behind his silence. And he certainly did not know that the skills he had spent years trying to leave behind would soon become the reason someone's life would change forever. The days after Ethan Walker left Victoria Hayes' company revealed something unexpected. While Victoria believed she had moved forward, small moments began showing her that she had lost more than an employee. She had lost someone who understood the world around her in a way few people ever had. Before Ethan left, Victoria never noticed the small details he handled every day. She never questioned how he always knew the fastest route, how he prepared for unexpected changes, or how he created a sense of calm during her busiest moments. She simply assumed those things were part of his job. Now, without him, she started realizing there were signs of something much deeper. One morning, Victoria arrived at an important business meeting and found herself distracted by several unexpected problems. Her new driver followed instructions perfectly, but he did not notice the details Ethan always noticed. He did not understand the rhythm of her schedule or the importance of preparation. Victoria said nothing, but the comparison stayed in her mind. Meanwhile, Ethan continued building his quiet life with Lily. He took her to school, prepared meals, and spent evenings helping her learn. He enjoyed being present for moments that once passed while he was working. But even though he had chosen peace, Ethan never lost the instincts that had shaped him. He remained observant. He remained prepared. He simply used those qualities differently now. One afternoon, Ethan visited a local community center with Lily. While waiting for her, he noticed a small issue with the building's emergency plan. He quietly mentioned it to the staff, offering a simple suggestion that could make things safer for everyone. The staff member thanked him and asked how he recognized the problem so quickly. Ethan smiled. "I have spent a lot of time paying attention to details." He never explained more. He never mentioned his years of service. He never wanted praise. Back at Victoria's company, she continued searching through Ethan's background. The information she discovered surprised her more each day. She learned about his years in the Navy, his commitment to his team, and the respect people had for him. But what stood out most was not the position he once held. It was the way people described him. Reliable, calm, selfless. A person who protected others without needing recognition. Victoria looked at the information again and thought about her own actions. She had judged Ethan based on the simplest part of his identity. She saw a driver and never consider the person. For the first time, she understood that humility did not mean weakness. Sometimes the quietest people carried the strongest character. That evening, Victoria sat alone in her office after everyone had left. The city lights reflected through the windows as she remembered Ethan's final words when she dismissed him. He had not argued. He had not blamed her. He had simply accepted the decision with dignity. She wondered how many people she had misunderstood because she only saw what was visible. The next morning, Victoria received a message about an upcoming company event. Important guests would be attending, and security arrangements needed to be carefully planned. As she reviewed the details, she remembered something about Ethan. He always noticed what others missed. She did not know why, but a feeling told her that the quiet single dad she had let go might still have a role in the future she was trying to protect. The morning of the company event arrived with a sense of excitement throughout Victoria Hayes's organization. Important guests were expected, business leaders would be attending, and every detail needed to be carefully prepared. Victoria had always believed that preparation was the foundation of success, but recently she began noticing something she had ignored before. The people who created the strongest foundations were not always the ones standing in the spotlight. As her team reviewed the plans, several small concerns appeared. Nothing seemed impossible to solve, but the details mattered. A schedule needed adjustment. A communication plan required more attention. A few areas needed someone with experience and a calm perspective. Victoria listened as her team discussed solutions, but her thoughts kept returning to Ethan Walker. She remembered how he always stayed composed when situations changed. She remembered how he never made problems feel bigger than they were. At the time, she believed that was simply part of being a good driver. Now she understood it was something much deeper. It was discipline built over years of responsibility. Meanwhile, Ethan was spending his morning with Lily before school. He helped her prepare for a presentation she had been nervous about. "What if I make a mistake?" Lily asked. Ethan smiled and answered, "Everyone makes mistakes. What matters is how you respond afterward." Those words reflected the way Ethan lived his own life. He did not expect perfection. He believed in preparation, patience, and doing the right thing even when nobody was watching. Later that day, Victoria's assistant reached out with an unexpected request. The company needed someone familiar with the environment and able to provide guidance during the event. After a long pause, Victoria looked at Ethan's contact information. She knew calling him would require humility. She knew she would have to admit that perhaps she had not understood him. But the responsibility of protecting her company mattered more than protecting her pride. When Ethan answered the phone, he recognized Victoria's voice immediately. "Ethan, I know this is unexpected," she said. "I would like to ask for your help." Ethan listened quietly. He did not sound surprised. He did not mention the way she had dismissed him. He simply asked what she needed. Victoria explained the situation. She expected him to hesitate or ask questions about why she had changed her mind. Instead, Ethan responded with the same calmness he had shown before. "I will help if I can." Those simple words surprised her. Ethan was not interested in making her feel guilty. He was not returning to prove that she was wrong. He was returning because he believed helping people was the right thing to do. When Ethan arrived at the event location, Victoria saw him differently for the first time. He was still the same quiet man she had known. He was still humble. He was still respectful. But now she understood there was a depth behind his silence that she had never taken the time to discover. Ethan walked through the location carefully, observing details others ignored. He asked thoughtful questions, reviewed plans, and offered suggestions without making anyone feel inexperienced. The team quickly noticed something different. Ethan did not command attention. He earned trust naturally. Victoria watched from a distance and realized that the person she once considered ordinary had always been extraordinary. She simply had not looked closely enough. The company event began with hundreds of small details coming together, but behind the polished appearance was a team carrying the pressure of making everything perfect. Victoria Hayes walked through the venue with confidence, yet she noticed something different this time. She was no longer only looking at results. She was watching the people who created them. And for the first time, she noticed Ethan Walker. Ethan moved quietly through the room, checking details that others overlooked. He listened carefully, observed the environment, and offered simple suggestions that made the entire process smoother. He did not act like someone trying to prove his importance. He acted like someone who cared about everyone's success. The employees around him quickly began trusting his judgment. They saw the patience and focus that had always been part of his character. Victoria watched as people naturally turned to Ethan when they had questions. It reminded her of something she had ignored before. Leadership was not always about having the highest position. Sometimes it was about having the experience to guide others without needing recognition. During the event preparations, Ethan noticed a few areas that needed attention. He calmly explained his concerns to the team and suggested adjustments. Nobody felt criticized. Nobody felt embarrassed. Ethan had a unique ability to make people feel capable while helping them improve. Victoria observed this closely. She had spent years building a company around talented people, but she realized she had overlooked one of the most valuable qualities a person could have: character. Later that afternoon, Victoria approached Ethan privately. "I owe you an apology," she said. Ethan looked at her quietly. He did not expect those words. "For what?" he asked. Victoria took a moment before answering. "For assuming I knew who you were without ever taking the time to understand you." Ethan appreciated her honesty. He could have reminded her about the day she dismissed him. He could have listed everything she failed to see. Instead, he simply said, "Everyone makes decisions with the information they have at the time." Victoria realized that even after everything, Ethan was not holding on to resentment. He had every reason to be upset, yet he chose grace instead. That moment stayed with her. She understood that his strength did not come only from his past. It came from the person he had chosen to become. As the event continued, Ethan helped the team handle unexpected changes with calm confidence. He never raised his voice. He never demanded attention. He simply did what he had always done. He protected the people around him by being prepared. At the end of the evening, the event was considered a success. The guests praised the organization and professionalism of the company. But Victoria knew the most important lesson was not about the event. It was about the person who had quietly helped make it possible. On the way home, Ethan received a message from Lily asking when he would be back. He smiled because no matter what happened at work, his greatest role was still being her father. Victoria saw that clearly now. The man she once considered just a driver had qualities that could not be measured by a job title. His past had shaped him, but his kindness defined him. And for the first time, she understood that true heroes are often the people who never ask to be noticed. In the weeks that followed the company event, something unexpected happened at Victoria Hayes' organization. The biggest change was not found in new strategies or financial reports. It was found in the way people began treating one another. Employees who once focused only on titles and positions started noticing the quiet contributions around them. They began understanding that every person had a role in creating success. Ethan Walker continued working with the same calm attitude he had always shown. He never changed because people finally noticed him. He remained the same person who arrived prepared, listened carefully, and helped others without expecting anything in return. For Ethan, respect was not something people earned through power. It was something everyone deserved from the beginning. Victoria noticed this every day. Before meeting Ethan, she believed strong leadership meant making fast decisions and always appearing confident. But Ethan taught her that confidence without understanding could lead to mistakes. She began asking more questions, listening more carefully, and learning from the people around her. One afternoon, Victoria invited Ethan to a private meeting. She wanted to understand more about the man behind the quiet personality. "I realized I never really asked about your life," she said. Ethan smiled slightly. "Most people do not ask." Victoria looked surprised. "Why not?" Ethan thought for a moment before answering. "People usually see what they expect to see." Those words stayed with her. She knew exactly what he meant. She had looked at his job title and assumed she knew his value. She had seen a driver and never considered the person behind the role. Ethan slowly shared pieces of his past. He explained that his years in the Navy had taught him lessons about responsibility, teamwork, and staying calm during difficult moments. But he did not talk about it with pride. He spoke about it with gratitude. He believed every experience in life was meant to teach something. Victoria listened carefully and realized the greatest part of Ethan's story was not what he had accomplished. It was the humility he carried afterward. Many people would use their achievements to gain attention. Ethan used his experiences to become a better father and a better person. Later that evening, Victoria saw Ethan with Lily outside the company building. He helped her carry her school project and listened as she explained every detail of her day. The powerful CEO who had once judged him by his position saw something she had missed completely. Ethan's greatest strength was not hidden in his past. It was visible in the way he treated people every single day. He was patient with his daughter. He was respectful with employees. He was willing to help even those who had misunderstood him. Victoria realized that the qualities she admired most in leaders were the same qualities Ethan had shown all along. The next morning, she made an important announcement to the company. She introduced a new leadership approach focused on recognizing people for their character, not just their results. She wanted everyone to remember a simple lesson. Talent could create success, but character created trust. Ethan listened quietly as employees applauded. He did not seek the attention, but he appreciated the message behind it. The company was changing, and so was Victoria. She finally understood that some people do not need a louder voice to make an impact. Their actions already speak clearly enough. The months after Ethan Walker returned to Victoria Hayes's company brought a transformation that few people expected. The organization was becoming stronger, but the most important improvement was not something that appeared in a quarterly report or a business presentation. It was the change in how people viewed each other. Employees who once believed success belonged only to those with impressive titles began recognizing the quiet individuals who helped keep everything moving. Ethan continued his work with the same humility he had always carried. He did not act differently because people respected him now. He did not seek praise or remind anyone of the mistakes they had made. He simply continued helping, guiding, and supporting the people around him. That was what made him different. One morning, Victoria invited Ethan to join a leadership discussion with several department managers. In the past, Ethan would have remained outside those conversations, focused only on his assigned responsibilities. But now, everyone wanted to hear his perspective. Victoria looked around the room and spoke honestly. We spent years searching for people who could create change, but we forgot to appreciate the people who protected what was already working. The room became quiet because everyone understood the meaning behind her words. Ethan listened without interrupting. He never believed he deserved special treatment. He only believed people should be valued for who they were and what they contributed. During the meeting, a younger employee asked Ethan how he developed such strong judgment. Ethan smiled and answered, "You learn by paying attention. You learn by listening. And you learn by respecting the people around you." The employee remembered those words because they were simple, but they carried a powerful lesson. Ethan's experience was not valuable because of the years behind him. It was valuable because he continued learning from every situation. Later that afternoon, Victoria walked through the office and noticed something she had never paid attention to before. Employees were not just completing tasks. They were helping one another. They were communicating better. They were becoming more confident because they felt respected. She realized Ethan's greatest contribution was not a specific skill or a hidden ability. It was the culture he created simply by the way he treated people. Outside the office, Ethan remained focused on his life as a father. He attended Lily's school activities, helped her prepare for assignments, and encouraged her dreams. One evening, Lily asked him, "Are you happy that people know about your past now?" Ethan smiled and shook his head. "My past is only one part of who I am." "Then what matters most?" she asked. Ethan looked at her and answered, "The choices you make every day." Those words represented the person Ethan had always been. His greatest achievement was not a position, an award, or the respect of a company. It was becoming someone his daughter could look up to. Victoria eventually understood that lesson as well. The quiet single dad she once underestimated had shown her something no business strategy could teach. Real strength did not need attention. Real leadership did not require control. And true character was revealed by what a person did when nobody was watching. Ethan never tried to become a hero in anyone's eyes. He simply lived with honesty, responsibility, and grace. And that was exactly why people began seeing him as one. The relationship between Ethan Walker and Victoria Hayes continued to change in ways neither of them expected. What started as a simple professional connection became a lesson about respect, trust, and seeing people beyond their appearances. Victoria had spent years building a successful company by making quick decisions, but Ethan showed her that the most important decisions were often the ones that required patience and understanding. One afternoon, Victoria visited Ethan's neighborhood after being invited to a small community gathering. She wanted to understand the life he had outside the company, the life he protected so carefully. She expected to find someone defined by his past, someone who carried his achievements like a badge. Instead, she found a father preparing food for his daughter, helping neighbors, and sharing simple conversations with people who appreciated him. Ethan was not treated like a former military member or a respected professional. He was simply Ethan, the person everyone trusted because of the kindness he showed every day. Victoria watched as Lily ran toward her father with a smile, excited to share a school project she had completed. Ethan listened with complete attention, celebrating her effort as if it were the most important achievement in the world. In that moment, Victoria understood something she had missed before. Ethan's greatest strength was never hidden in his past. It was visible in every choice he made as a father. Later, while walking through the neighborhood, Victoria asked Ethan a question that had been on her mind. "Why did you never tell me about your previous life?" Ethan looked, thoughtful before answering. "Because I did not want people to respect me because of something I did years ago. I wanted them to respect me because of who I am today." Victoria remembered those words for a long time. In a world where people often introduce themselves through titles and accomplishments, Ethan measured himself by his actions. He did not need to remind others of his history. He allowed his character to speak first. As the weeks passed, Victoria began making changes throughout the company. She encouraged managers to recognize effort, loyalty, and teamwork. She created opportunities for employees who were often overlooked. The company became more connected because people felt seen and valued. Many employees credited the change to Victoria's new leadership, but she knew the truth. She had learned from someone who never asked to teach her anything. Ethan remained humble through it all. He continued arriving early, helping wherever he could, and returning home each evening to spend time with Lily. His life was not built around recognition. It was built around purpose. One evening, Victoria saw Ethan preparing to leave after a long day. She thanked him for everything he had done. Ethan simply smiled and said, "I'm glad I could help." Those words reminded her of the difference between someone who seeks attention and someone who creates impact. Ethan had spent his life protecting others, but the most meaningful thing he protected was the trust people placed in him. Victoria finally understood that the quietest people often carry the deepest stories. They do not ask the world to notice them. They simply continue doing what is right. And eventually, the world begins to see. Years passed, but the lesson Ethan Walker brought into Victoria Hayes' life remained one of the most important lessons she had ever learned. The company continued to grow, but the greatest success was no longer measured only by numbers, profits, or achievements. It was measured by the people who believed they mattered. Victoria had once looked at Ethan and only saw a quiet single dad who drove her from one meeting to another. She had seen his position, but she had never seen his purpose. Now, she understood that the person sitting behind the wheel had always carried something far more valuable than a title. He carried integrity. At a company celebration marking a new chapter of growth, Victoria stood in front of her employees and shared a message she wanted everyone to remember. She did not talk about strategies or competition. She talked about people. She talked about the importance of recognizing those who work quietly, those who support others without expecting attention, and those who choose kindness even when nobody is watching. Then she invited Ethan to stand beside her. The room became silent as everyone looked toward the man who had once been overlooked. Ethan felt uncomfortable with the attention because he never believed he deserved special recognition. Victoria smiled and said, "Some people spend their lives trying to prove they are important. Ethan spent his life showing it through his actions." Those words meant more to him than any award could have. Ethan simply nodded, grateful for the respect, but still humble about everything he had done. After the event, Victoria thanked Ethan privately. She told him that meeting him changed the way she viewed leadership, success, and people. Ethan smiled and replied, "Everyone has a story. Sometimes we just need to take the time to listen." That sentence stayed with Victoria because it represented the lesson she had learned. People are not defined by their jobs, their appearances, or the assumptions others make about them. They're defined by the choices they make every day. Ethan continued living the life that mattered most to him. He spent time with Lily, supported her dreams, and remained the same caring father he had always been. His past as a Navy SEAL was part of his journey, but it was not the only thing that made him remarkable. The true measure of Ethan Walker was found in his patience, his compassion, and the way he treated everyone around him. Victoria also continued changing. She became a leader who listened before judging. She learned that respect was not something given only to people with influence. It was something everyone deserved. Looking back, she realized the day she fired Ethan was not the end of his story. It was the beginning of a lesson she desperately needed. The man she thought was ordinary had shown her what extraordinary truly looked like. Ethan never asked to be seen as a hero. He never needed applause or recognition. He simply lived with quiet dignity, protected the people he loved, and chose to do what was right. And in the end, that was the greatest lesson of all. True strength does not demand attention. True character does not need a title. Sometimes the most powerful people in the world are the ones who quietly make life better for everyone around them.